till a physician successfully avoided incriminating DNA evidence being gathered from him for 5 years by implanting a tube of foreign blood and anticoagulants in his arm, from which he made sure all samples would be drawn. Dude sounds like a monster, and I don't want to sound like I'm defending him, but like, why would you keep giving up samples for so long? Wouldn't your lawyers at some point be like, look, you've drawn blood samples for 2 years, you still have those samples, and the results of them, you're not going to just keep taking blood and poking and prodding our client until some unknown time in the future. I watch ID every night to go to S1 worse than this one. Woman sleeping with doctor. He collects HIV blood from a patient. Woman is now pregnant, he injects her with the HIV blood, saying it's vitamins. They were able to test the strain of HIV, back to his patient. People can be pretty horrible. She's now HIV positive and had a miscarriage. For all curious how that worked, when he would be getting his blood drawn for a sample, he'd mention that he was a doctor and ask for the professional courtesy to do the drawing himself under their observation. Then he would put the needle where he knew he'd implanted the tube with someone else's blood and draw from there. This dude was my doctor. Saved my life many times. It has fucked with my head since I found out, knowing the only reason I'm probably alive is because this utter monster saved me. Was also really awkward going through this case in my high school law class. We watched a documentary on the piece of shit. Schneeberger had a contingency plan for nearly every permutation, shaving his head and eyebrows bald in case they asked for a hair sample, and drinking liters of other people's ejaculate in case they took a semen sample. I'm not a biologist, but the crazy part is they only caught him on the 3rd blood sampling. He consented 3 times. He was within his rights to just refuse a 3rd time, citing his previous cooperation, and I don't think they ever would have caught him. This is a plot point in an episode of White Collar, too. The device in his arm is called a Penrose drain. The only way they caught this sick fuck was after doing mouth swabs and hair follicle tests on the 4th DNA test. 4th, strange that they were collecting DNA in that fashion and from a nurse rather than a police officer. Typically in Canada, at least, DNA collection is done by a finger prick for blood, buccal swab or hair follicle. I remember this was used in the plot of a TV show like a decade ago, but I can't remember exactly which one. If I had to guess though, I think it was Law & Order, since they use stuff from the news all the time. I've heard this story before and I can't help but feel this was partly negligence or lack of knowledge on part of the investigators. If he comes in for a blood draw, do a cheek swab instead. I'd give it's the same one I saw on Forensic Files, but that episode was extra creepy. No one believed the doctor was a rapist and the girl spent years trying to prove she was a victim. This is from my province. Legendary case, and people still believe that he is innocent. This is what happens when you need a small town doctor. My question is, how do you get a blood sample into your arm that you can get a syringe into, but also can't leak out and contaminate you? The Penrose drain was kinda genius. Felt like a real vein, looked like one too, so obviously the nurse who took it wouldn't realize. With the modern vein finder devices, easily see a fake tube like this in a person's arm? I'm honestly asking. With a needle and large syringe, it's easy to inject someone's urine into an empty bladder before drug testing. White Collar has an episode where somebody does this to positively identify as some rich bloke's missing son. I remember seeing this on an episode of Forensic Files. Shit was crazy how he got away with it for so long. Ben Sisko's dad has been redeemed. From 340 onwards. Lucky for him, we live in a world where male DNA samples aren't aspirated directly from the testes. Allow us to take your blood sample, sir. Please remove your shoes. Surprised Pikachu face. I think I remember seeing this on Forensic Files years ago. What a piece of shit this guy is. And you thought you were so clever for concealing a Wizinator in your trousers. The fact he only got 6 years when people that have pot get 10 or more. Wooey. Straight out of a scene from The Event. Was this Dr. NHI? Yep, saw the Forensic Files episode about this case. Crazy stuff. Meanwhile, I start to pass out at the sight of needles SMH. I saw that on one of those crime shows. Super crazy.